Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. Black heart, black mind, black end. Again, hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. So, that being said, listen. This morning, my time, which was yesterday evening, many of you all's time, I was on Game Changers live stream for a short spell, talking with Professor Truth. I think that was his name, Dr. Truth or Professor Truth. Something Truth about protecting black women, as Malcolm talked about. I want to reiterate, for those that may not have heard it, what I had to bring up on there before my class got started, and that is that in the end, we, where I live, have an understanding. When you protect a woman from harassment, it does not mean that now you get the peace leave. The whole point is that you protected her from harassment for illicit sexual purposes. On the flip side, there is an understanding that the wife has a right to his penis and the husband has a right to her vagina. This is understood. Couples would not argue about sex in public in front of others, but by the same token, if it is seen that either one is not giving it to the other one when they request it, and nobody's sick, then that's a shame for that spouse that's withholding. And that spouse is seen as an oppressor to the other spouse, whether it is the wife withholding the peace leave from the husband or vice versa. But when a man protects a woman here, where we are, one thing that has to be remembered is that for that man to protect a woman, although it does not entitle him to the peace leave unless, of course, they get married, it does increase his chances of being approved by the father to marry her, and for a lesser dowry too. It improves those chances. Makes things easier. If that he's going to pursue that. What it does not do, it never has the opposite effect. Protecting a woman that you know or don't know in either case, it never decreases your chances of getting married to someone because you're a hero. It never decreases your chances of that. Never. So celibacy is never, as I've said before, sex can't be the only reward for protection, but celibacy absolutely cannot be any reward ever. And it is not a reward here. There's no such thing as celibacy being a natural outcome of you being a positive man that protects women. And this is why it is that here I would actually be willing to protect women more than I would in the States. More than likely, I'm not going to see harassment. Secondly, if I do see one, no one's going to blame me for protecting her. Number two, if she doesn't say, listen, thank you, sir, she's going to get me in touch with the men in her family who would say thank you. They may buy me dinner, something. That's the point I'm getting at. And truth be told, there was a case where a maid, an Ethiopian maid, was protected by my friends. A family I had befriended protected her. And when I asked them why they took all this time beating up on the men that tried to violate her, and they never called me to come and get some licks in myself, they said, well, we didn't know that you would like to do something like that. And I told them I would not have minded boxing these men first while they were still fresh. One man said, if that's the case, maybe we should fix you and her up. But she was 17 and I was 37 at the time. I said, man, you out your damn mind. She's a maid. She doesn't speak English or Arabic from what y'all told me. And we're 20 years apart. Are you serious? And they were like, she's got to marry somebody. So I said to them, well, thank you for thinking about me, but I prefer somebody a little closer to my age, actually a lot closer to my age, and educated. Now, most men don't. And I was not blue pill at this point either. I was pretty solidly red pill, but my own taste with this, because I've got my own reasons. However, That's a different talk for another day. The main thing I want to get at here is that what I want to really get you all to understand is that the major difference is that here I was not friend zoned. I was not the shopping buddy. I was not called to babysit these women's kids by other men that would have never protected anybody. None of that. Now, granted, nobody ever mentioned trying to fix me up with anybody before this point either. So what I'm trying to get at is that, gentlemen, if you aren't necessarily looking for the draws, but you still feel like you're being made a fool of if you're willing to jump out there and protect a sister you don't know from an assailant you don't know in a situation you don't know, that's your subconscious telling you never, ever do something for which celibacy is a reward. Never do something that's going to increase your chances of celibacy without it being your decision. That is a perfectly okay motive for you to have. Now, when I talked with Miss Philosophier, she brought up a valid point, but there was a reason that I said I'm not going to condemn these men, if they're not Muslim, until something happens. And let me explain what that is. First, she said something about how SYSB men and passport brothers believe in recreational sex with women, contributing to the single mother epidemic. Number one, most of these guys that are willing to go out there and pay for play or have girlfriends are trying to protect themselves. That's first thing. Secondly, if recreational sex is going to be a thing, we're not going to sit back and say, well, it's okay for us to just be excluded from it because we're boring or because we're so-called educated lames. That's an insult. That's not just women's taste. When you are excluded because of the things about you that are not bad, that's a goddamn insult. You don't have to sit and say, oh, it's okay, it's just their taste. You have to accept the reality that it's their taste and they have a right to their preferences. But you also have to understand that you're being insulted. And you have a right to go somewhere where you're not going to be insulted. The other thing, too, that I had to understand is that there are both recreational and reproductive purposes for sex. Women have sex for non-reproductive, recreational purposes all the time. They're just most interested in it when they're the most fertile reproductively. But what women are not interested in is sex being a stress relief for the man. That's what it is. They're not interested in that. That gets them bothered. He enjoyed it too much. God forbid you enjoy it more than she does. But he enjoyed it too much, and that makes me angry. So I'm either going to give him news of a pregnancy, or I'm going to tell him I'm at the clinic waiting on the test results and make him wait days after that and not answer him back when he asks what's going on. Something has to be stressful for him because he found sexual relief in my vagina. This is what goes through their heads, even subconsciously. But when you make them conscious and aware of it, most of them are not going to say, oh, dang, I didn't realize I was doing this, I need to stop. No, most of them are going to say, well, you know what? Yeah, so what? And what about it? Why should you have all the fun? Why should you have any of the fun, even if I'm having fun too? This is a common attitude. So it's either conscious or it's subconscious. But when Miss Philosophier was saying something about men having no business complaining and then wanting to engage in recreational sex, my answer was Muslim men should not be engaging in fornication. But I'm going to tell you now, if you are Muslim and you get married, you need to be engaging in recreational sex that relieves your stress and satisfies you and satisfies her without the stress afterwards. No, you don't need the stress afterwards. The only stress should be trying to overcome a post-cream pie coma long enough to get through a shower. That's the stress, the only stress you should face. This is some BS. This is crap. Recreational sex for married people is a part of it. It should be. And if it's only reproductive and never recreational, something's wrong. I understand this too. Understand that Western women, many times, again, subconsciously, when it's not conscious, are going to intentionally get onto a sexual program that is incompatible with yours, just to leave you in some kind of tension. That's who and what the F they are. And again, when it's not conscious, it's subconscious. When they realize that it's conscious, when they're conscious of it, that does not mean that many of them are going to say, damn, I've been upped up, I need to stop and change. Nope. We already know. Western women do not start criticizing their attitudes and adjusting their attitudes until they get older and lose their appeal. Or if they lose their appeal when they're young, they stop. They have to be unattractive in order to start rethinking their attitudes and their approaches. When they're attractive enough, they feel they're too good. At any point, they feel they're too good to ever do anything to make a man happy. That's how they are. That's the way they're trained. So keep in mind, gentlemen, you can't have a life wherein you chase the draws, certainly. But do not ever let any of them come along and tell you, neither the matriarchs nor their mamdingos, neither the gynocrats nor their goons, do not ever let them come along and use that type of sight game to get you to do things that would make you less attractive to them and lower or lessen your options. And I do mean your sexual options. Don't do that. You may limit your sexual options yourself. I think men need to practice that. I would start by saying, limit it to marriage. I would start by saying that. But by the same token, I'm going to also tell you this. When you limit those options, you make sure you're doing it, and you do not let them come along and tell you to do something that's going to limit your options. So you don't let them come along and tell you to be willing to jump in and throw everything away, risk your health, your freedom, your life ultimately, your livelihood, your ability to look after your own wife and children for a stranger. Don't do that. Don't let them tell you that, because when you do that, understand that automatically your sexual options amongst anyone that knows about her or you goes down. They decrease. Not because you chose that, but because they did. Because that's how they were trained. That is not okay. That's a goddamn insult. That's an insult they would never tolerate. So, these are part of the reasons why I say this is war. A lot of these war efforts on the part of the wicked witches of the West are subconscious. They're not even aware they're doing it. They just don't care when they become aware of it. You point it out, so oftentimes they'll deny it. When they're done denying it, then they say, and what about it? You just need to X, Y, and Z. And so this is part of why I say, this is one of the reasons why I say that when people go in on Stephen Klink scales in comment sections, they're not doing this in videos that I know of, but in comment sections when people go in on Stephen Klink scales, I say y'all need to fuck the shuck up. Because a lot of y'all like to talk about what he openly admits to about his youth that he didn't know. He was unaware. And he had to start asking critical thinking questions. And he had to question, if this guy's so bad, why is he the father of your children? He had to start asking these questions. Things he just wasn't aware of. I mean, it's not like anybody sat him down and told him. Some people like to say, well, he started off as a blue pill beta male simp, and now he's so alpha and he's just overcompensating and things like that. No. He's helping other people to not make that mistake. And it's not like anybody's going to sit him down when he's 16 and tell him this is what they're going to do, this is why they're doing it, and these are the things they do and they don't even know they're doing it. And this is how unreasonable it is. No, nobody's sitting him down. Nobody sat him down at that young of an age and told him. He channeled whatever red pill rage he may have gone through into the correct direction. So, y'all need to fuck the shuck up. You do not go in on men who become aware and say, I'm going to pull the wool off of everybody's eyes and make the other men aware too while they're young. You don't do that. You go to the ladies in your life, including the relatives, and you say to them, how about you fuck the shuck up with us and go to the young men in your family and tell them exactly what it is that you don't want them to know about the games that you all play and why y'all play them. This is very important. This is a challenge that most of them are not going to be able to meet. There are going to be a few that will. But fuck the shuck up telling us men what not to say and what not to expose and this sort of thing. Because when you start saying that, you can defend the women that are not doing this by simply saying that the women who aren't doing this should not have to suffer because of the women that are. Because, see, then we're on the same page anyway. But what I'm getting at here, too, is that you're going to have to stop defending this stuff by telling us to shut up, because if all you're saying is shut up, you're wrong, you're bitter, who hurt you, then all you're really doing is you're saying, this is exactly how I am, and I'm pissed off that you're ruining the game for me. You're really saying nothing else. I'm guilty, and I'm going to do this again and again, and I don't want you ruining the game for me. Well, what interest do we have in sitting back and let you have these victims? Before I throw a rock through these people's window, I hope that this benefited, and I hope one day it won't be necessary anymore. Thanks for listening. Black Heart, Black Mind, Blackout, Assalamu Alaikum, and Black Heterosexual, Non-Select, Blue Pill Beta Male Simp Power just because they don't like it.